Hello and welcome to the Weeball Podcast. I'm Luke Cromich, and joining me as always is my good and dear friend Tyler DeSena, and we're here to talk about some quarterbacks. Tyler, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. This episode should be better than one that you guys will never see that we tried to record while Luke was sick. It's going to be lost in the vault forever, but just so you know, it was indeed legendary. We got about halfway through a mock draft, but today we're talking some quarterbacks, some guys that we think are on the rise, some guys that, might already be at the top and just kind of have to sustain the way they're playing. We've got three different tiers of guys: A tier guys, B tier, and C tier. And we're really excited to talk about all of them because this quarterback class is pretty deep if you haven't heard already.
Yeah, it's shaping up to be deeper than we even thought it would be, which makes it even more fun. Obviously, there's still a lot of guys who are big names who they're on the older side. We don't really want to talk about them, mostly because I'm not a fan of the two big ones in that group. So we are going to start with the A tier because A tier is always easiest to talk about. And those top two guys are Drake May and Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, there's a little bit of a conversation going on in his inner circles, and it's now coming out to the outer circle that is us in college football media, that he doesn't want to play for certain teams in the NFL if the situation doesn't suit him, which is interesting. And I think there's a little bit of a wrench into things in the QB1 conversation.
Yeah, and I think it's just we've talked about this before. I think we did a mock draft where we talked about this. It's just a little weird to be, he said that either before the season started or right after week one. And it's just like, you don't know how these teams are going to play. You don't know how it's going to pan out. We're 2 weeks into the season. And, if Arizona, which everyone assumed was going to be the worst team in football, gets the number one pick, I don't think that's a team you necessarily don't want to play for. I mean, that's a team that they're playing really hard right now, and honestly, they're playing a lot better than their level of talent would suggest. Like the game that they just had with the Giants, I know they allowed a big comeback, but to be up 20-0 on a team that made the playoffs last year, all I'm saying is I don't think that it makes much sense to do that, especially in the NFL. Like when you're about to get drafted, it's not like this is a player who's already in the league asking out. We'll see, but like you said, Caleb Williams, he's an absolute baller. There's not much else to say. He's got the best off-script ability we've seen in the draft, potentially ever. He is a really exciting player, somebody who we want to see operate on schedule, I think, a little bit more often, because that's just kind of like the one thing he needs to do. And, he's not going to be hitting at this rate, like all these big off-schedule plays in the NFL, because Mahomes doesn't hit at all these off-schedule plays right now. So I think that's the main thing we got to kind of see him work on. I think the other guy we want to talk about in this tier is Drake May, who is quite literally the opposite. This is somebody who has the timing, the anticipation, the reads. He's like a lot more of the on time within the structure of the offense quarterback, and is somebody that I think we want to kind of see take the step and do more of the creative stuff.
Yeah, I don't even think it's necessarily that he has to do more of it. I think he has to execute more of it. He's really good at executing off schedule with his legs, not so much his arm this year. He's been able to run for some timely first downs, touchdowns. He led a comeback drive to win a game, but a game that they shouldn't have been in need of a comeback in that game because it was a lot lower level of competition than South Carolina, who they played the week before and absolutely blitzed, mostly because of their defense, who was constantly blitzing Spencer Rattler, who played well regardless. But Drake May just needs to do the things that we know he can do with his arm when it's not given to him on a silver platter. It's not about the legs. He gets on his horse when he needs to. I'm not really concerned about, all that. I'm just concerned about making the throws when he gets on his horse and has to, make something happen with his arm and not just the legs.
Yeah, you mentioned it when we talked about him pre this season, how sometimes it would be like 1 to 4 super quickly and then just kind of take off. I think there are times where you want to see him stick on reads longer because sometimes he honestly just blinks too fast and he doesn't necessarily understand that the window will open up. And then there's other times where you would just like to see him not run to run as much, but run for the sake of passing, become more of a pass first runner, especially because he's athletic, but he's not the most athletic guy in the world. You'd rather see him pass the ball 20 yards down the field than run the ball 5. So I definitely understand where you're coming from. Up next, we've got our B tier. And I know there are some guys that you're really excited to talk about. So take us through your first guy, and then we'll keep it going from there.
So the first guy, basically all of America is talking about this guy right now, and it is Mr. Shedeur Sanders. He and Colorado are the story of the college football season, in a rather boring college football season because there is no real powerhouse team that everyone's trying to take down. There's not really many good teams in college football this year, but Colorado is a fun team that people are actually paying attention to, and there's a lot of media hype, and he's handling it well. I will say that is something that's very impressive to me, is the way he's handling this media hype and basically the whole world watching, doing commercials like Tom Brady and stuff now, being on podcasts with everyone under the sun. He's handled it well, Shedeur Sanders, and he looks like an NFL quarterback. Like, he looks like a Sunday guy every time he steps on the field. Now, Deion's saying he's not going to the NFL this year. At least he was saying that before the season. I don't know if that's the case anymore. He might be skipping out on his dad a little bit earlier than was planned. However, he looks really good. He is coming along a lot quicker than I think we thought he would come along. We knew he had talent. If you watched his tape from last year, you knew he had the talent, especially in that FAMU game where he just did things that were special and next level. I just didn't think he would make the jump this quickly, and he has, and it's very impressive. So I'm really excited to see where he continues to take this.
Attention fantasy football fanatics, as draft season approaches, don't neglect the most important draft pick of all, your game balls. We all know how injuries can ruin a season, so let Manscaped take care of that Reggie Bush of yours with their skin-safe technology. That should guarantee you to have a smooth ride into the playoffs. The leaders in the below-the-waist grooming have created a championship lineup with their Performance Package 4.0, and it's time for you to do the same. Join the 9 million men around the world who trust Manscaped and get ready for kickoff by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping when you use code WEBALL. We all know that confidence is the biggest thing, whether it comes to recording a podcast, interviewing professional athletes, playing on the field, or even trimming below the waist. And for that last one, Manscaped has helped out tremendously with their Performance Package 4.0. Inside the Performance Package 4.0, you'll find the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance boxer briefs, and even a travel bag. Slotted at quarterback, we've got the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer. This spaceship is here to guide you on your journey to trim your body, balls, and even your A gap. This 4th generation trimmer also features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multi-function on-off switch that can engage in a travel lock, and is even waterproof. The Lawnmower 4.0 also has a 4000K LED spotlight, brighter than Bryce Young's future in the end zone. The Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Weed Whacker, the ultimate flex. Watch it run through your ear and nose hairs like Aaron Donald runs through to sack your favorite quarterback. The Weed Whacker is also waterproof and uses 9,000 RPM motor-powered 360-degree rotary dual blade system. This ear and nose hair trimmer provides proprietary skin safe technology, which helps reduce nicks, snags, and tugs in those sensitive ear and nose holes. Don't forget to use the Crop Preserver ball deodorant and the Crop Reviver to help your little bench warmers be on their A game while feeling the sun's heat. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts to the Performance Package 4.0, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. So who's the commissioner now? Get 20% off plus free shipping with code WEBALL at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code WEBALL, WEBALL, at manscaped.com. It's time to put the PP back in PPR and get a grip on your pigskin this season with Manscaped. Yeah, I think Shedeur is somebody who just has, like you said, just kind of taken every level he's played at by storm. And we've talked about it before. This is a player who is just so much better mentally than I thought he would be at, solely because I thought there would be an adjustment period from HBCUs and lower level competition than, playing at Colorado and playing against this like FBS, the best of the best. I mean, they haven't played any like crazy teams, but you get where I'm coming from. Higher level competition. I thought he would be a beat late on things. I thought, it would take him a while to adjust, get within the system and, make on time throws, but he hasn't had a problem with that at all. Like everyone talks about the stuff that we're seeing, out of structure, off script, where he's rolling around, making guys miss, making plays, but it's his ability to like read the offense and like make correct reads and fire over the middle and like into tight windows. Like he's doing so much NFL stuff where it's like, if you told me by the end of the year we have Shadur Sanders in that tier one guy, like alongside Drake May, Caleb Williams, if you told me he's there, I would not be surprised based on the rate that he's grown.
Another guy who I wouldn't be surprised if he can make his way up to this tier. I feel like we've said this a lot of times, but it needs to be reiterated. He did beat Bama already this year, which Bama team does look weak, but not because of their defense. Their defense is still stout and very, very good with lots of NFL talent. And that guy that I am talking about is one Quinn Ewers. Texas looks good, and it looked good because of Quinn Ewers. Obviously, he has a Xavier Worthy and some really good weapons, but he's making the most of the offense being completely in his control now, it being on him to win games. And he's doing so. Like he's making the right plays, making the right reads. I think it's going to be interesting to see how it goes on. Texas always kind of in the past few years have dropped that Big 12 game. And it's kind of shaken his confidence. They've just dropped a random Big 12 game, whether it be like Texas Tech or just somebody. They just lose to someone and it shakes his confidence. Let's see what happens if they drop it now that they've already beaten Alabama. He called a players only meeting after the Alabama game, which they normally reserve for losses, player only meetings. And he was like, hey, that was just the start. That was the warm up. Let's get it going. I'm really liking the way he's reading the field. He's processing at a much faster rate than he was last year. And he's moving a lot more. I don't know if you saw the graphic, but he's lost a lot of weight, apparently, according to Texas. And it's apparent with the way he moves, but he still has that power, that Quinn Ewers deep ball that we like to see. He still has all that. So it's very interesting to see this development because he's developing in a way that I didn't think we would see in gaining that ability to run, that ability to move, that ability to create.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. Quinn Ewers is extremely exciting. I think it is going to be interesting to see now that I think people have kind of just proclaimed Texas is indeed back now. And I think it's going to be interesting to see, do they, does that hinder them now that they have these newfound expectations that they really haven't had in so long? And none of these players have been on the team with these kind of expectations, especially Quinn Ewers. So it's going to be interesting to see how does that unfold. But like you said, I mean, if he keeps playing at this level, we will be looking at him as somebody who's going to go in the first round and really early because he's extremely talented. He's somebody who, like you said, is processing faster. He can make a lot of those little off script plays. He is lighter. He's moving better. And it's just when you combine that with the accuracy that we already knew he had, which was like top notch, just like needed to be consistent with it. And now he's becoming that way. And you saw it against Bama, and we just, have continued to see it. I'm really excited to see where he ends up. I know we've got one more tier 2 guy, and I'm really excited to, have you kick it off so we can, get through tier 2, talk about some guys that might jump up there. Let me know, who's your last tier 2 guy? Who's the guy that we need to be looking out for as somebody who could potentially make a jump or just has separated themselves from the rest of the pack?
I think that this guy is probably going to end up as a round 2, 3 quarterback, a lot like how we saw Hendon Hooker last year. But I think he's better than Hendon Hooker, which might be a little nuts to say. It's Michael Penix. He obviously has some issues with, injuries. He's torn his ACL twice, I believe, which is worrisome. But every time I watch him play, I'm like, there is no one else in college football who has the arm that he has. Uh, his arm strength and speed and zip on the ball is nuts. Obviously, he's being aided by a very, 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 very good wide receiver core. Two guys that have first round potential, and then some guys below them that have top round potential. Um, so I know he's being helped a lot. I know that offense, aids itself to a quarterback having a lot of, high yardage, multi touchdown games, but he looks good on the field. He looks better than last year. So Michael Penix has been impressing me this year.
I mean, there's not much to say about Michael Penix. Like, I mean, actually there is, but I think that like we kind of knew that this would be somebody that we would look at in this kind of tier. It's just that he is doing it. He's playing really well. It's just the things that we want to see from him are kind of out of his control. We want to see, like his age is a concern. Like drafting somebody who's going to be, I think, like 24 years old. That's older than a lot of the guys who are entering the draft. He's already had the two ACL tears. These are things that you can't take back. So it's kind of the same situation with Hendon Hooker, where it's like, as much as you might like him, there's age concerns. But like we said, I think Penix is a better prospect than Hooker as well, primarily because he's playing in a more legitimate offense that has some things that'll translate. He's reading the field more, when Hooker was doing a lot of like extremely spread out, like 2-man concepts where it was just like fire the ball down the field. Penix is firing the ball down the field, but there's more to it. So yeah, he's kind of a tier 2 guy that I think, he's kind of just sitting right there, but I think there's more room, sadly, for him to go down and up, just because the stuff that we want to see is stuff that we physically can't, like a younger prospect or a prospect that doesn't have the injury concerns. It all comes down to he needs to stay healthy, and he needs to prove that he can be a high floor guy, because that's what you're looking for from an older prospect.
All right, Tyler, it's time for our third tier, our C tier. These are the guys who have some work to do before they can make this big jump. Um, I just think that they have the potential, a lot of these guys, and they're all around interesting prospects. We're going to talk about them. You can go first because I know this guy does go to your school. You're a big fan of his, so take it away, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't have this list without me bringing up Jordan Travis, and I do think that this is kind of where he belongs. I think you could look at him as like kind of in between tiers. I think that, there's room. I think there's going to be people who might like him more than a Michael Penix, just because there's not as much of an injury concern. He's more mobile, things like that. But I think this is where he belongs in this C tier, towards the top of it. He's really mobile. Like I said, this is somebody who really excels in the off script area. And a lot of times it is running for the sake of running, but he's able to make plays, break sacks. He kind of has that like baller energy that you're kind of looking for from like a mid-round quarterback that makes him fun. I think one thing that's really improved with him is his timing is a lot better over the last season and late in 2022. He's gotten a lot better within the timing of the offense. He's not relying as much on those like big plays off script rollout. Like Mike Norvell and company are, they're calling him some RPOs, and he's hitting them, and he's hitting slants in time. That's the kind of thing you want to see from him. The one thing is that FSU offense does do a lot to help him out. You're not seeing a ton of full field reads. You're not seeing a bunch of, extreme processing on his part. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they just have so many talented players that a lot of the time you don't need to be calling out like extreme full field read and different concepts, when you can kind of just have him throw to guys that are physically way more talented than the opposing team. Guys like a Keon Coleman, guys like a Johnny Wilson, who's 6'7" and, absolutely massive. But I think we're in for a really fun showdown, because Jordan Travis is playing against Clemson this weekend. So we could see, against the Clemson defense that has a lot of NFL prospects on it, how does he perform against what could be a really tough matchup? We know Clemson has lost games. We know that, they've had some struggles, but again, that's still a legitimate defense, and a defense that really could give him his first major test of the season. So I'm excited to see that. But as for a quarterback who beat Clemson, I know you've got your guy that you want to bring up. And this is kind of America's quarterback. So take it away on your guy.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm a big Riley Leonard guy. All right. I have been, but the Hive had to stay a secret because people were like, oh, you just like him because he's Daniel Jones. But again, um, so the Hive had to stay a secret for a while, but it is now acceptable to be a Riley Leonard fan, and I'm here. I'm making my claim as he has the potential to vault up to that B tier to be alongside the Quinn Ewers, the Michael Penix, and the Shadur Sanders of the world. I think a good test for that will be when he plays FSU, and because I believe you guys play this year, unless I'm wrong.
I'm
I'm 90%
99%.
sure you do.
We
However,
play on October 21st.
there we go. I knew it.
So a little over a month away, and it could be a really fun matchup because, I
Highly ranked
mean,
matchup.
yeah, because Duke is 18 right now. FSU's 4. Duke could continue to move up. We don't
Scary.
know what's going to happen with FSU. It's going to be a really fun matchup for both of those quarterbacks, but you keep going on Riley Leonard.
He does all of the easy things, which is what you want from a high potential quarterback. If your high potential quarterback does all of the easy things right, then there's less of a risk of betting on that potential. Because if you have a quarterback who does all the easy stuff wrong, then you have to fix all that easy stuff and then fix the hard stuff to make them that high potential, a great quarterback that you see in your dreams. If he already does the easy stuff, you can just work on the hard stuff, get him to that level that he needs to be at, and he can be an NFL franchise quarterback. Riley Leonard knows when to run. He doesn't force the run, but he's a strong runner. He hits all those easy throws. He makes good reads. He makes quick reads, but not too quick where he's switching off. He does have to like command an offense. He is playing at Duke, which that Mike Elko offense is kind of easy for a quarterback to run, but it's not Hendon Hooker easy. It's not Tennessee easy. This is not Joe Milton territory here. This is a legit offense. I do want to see him be a little bit more cerebral, take his first read and second read a little bit more often. Don't always take the check down. I know it's safe. I know it's easy. I know you get your yardage and your completion, but just be careful with relying on that a little bit. But yeah, he's a fun quarterback who does all of the easy things right, and that's what you want to see.
Yeah, he's a super fun quarterback. That's somebody who just kind of makes big plays happen. I think a lot of people didn't know about the legs and the fact that he had them, kind of like Daniel Jones, who, you were obviously comparing because of the Duke connection, and they are similar somewhat. But I think Riley Leonard has a lot more physical talent than Daniel Jones has, which is what makes him so exciting. I think that he's a really fun player. And like you said, you just kind of want to see the cerebral stuff come along. Right now, he's a fun prospect, and we might be even a little high ranking him right here, but he's someone who, if by the end of the year you're saying is a B tier, we wouldn't be surprised either. I know we've got one more guy. I want to let you kick it off. Who is the last guy in the C tier?
Well, my current college will be playing this man this weekend, and it will be his first real test. JJ McCarthy of the Michigan Wolverines. It plays a lot better when Jim Harbaugh isn't involved. And I've liked watching JJ McCarthy when Jim Harbaugh isn't involved, which in the NFL, Jim Harbaugh, I hope he's not involved just for his sake, just for JJ McCarthy's sake. I hope wherever he goes, they don't decide to hire Jim Harbaugh. Um,
He's going to get drafted by the Bears, and they're going to hire Jim
oh
Harbaugh.
God, don't even say that. That's horrible. A lot of stuff going on with the Bears today. For today's recording date is Wednesday, the 20th of September. So a lot of stuff going on at the Bears
Yeah,
facility.
we're not going on, and we were just lied to. But we'll
Yeah,
see how all
we'll
that
find
turns
out
out.
eventually.
Yeah, we're figuring it out very slowly. Whatever we're saying is probably not what is active of the time that this comes out. So
Back to JJ. He has all of the physical talent. I just want to see him again be a quarterback. Don't be a playmaker, be a quarterback. He needs to run the offense. He needs to take his first read. He needs to wait on the reads, let the play develop. But he makes plays, dude, and you can't fault a kid for making plays in college. That's what college is for, is to make plays and show off what you can do. So I really like what I've seen from him this year. I think he's a lot better than last year. And last year he got them to the playoffs and trumped Ohio State. Like they got knocked around by this Michigan team. So it'll be interesting. I think they have a pretty easy route to the playoff. Maybe we'll get to see him against some high level defenses again. Maybe we won't. Maybe Penn State will have something to say about it. But I like what I've seen from him so far this year, and it's a lot better than what we saw last year. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, he is somebody who is slowly becoming more and more of a quarterback, and somebody that we're kind of seeing is able to make plays when needed. And that was kind of a big thing that we needed to see from him. I think a lot of people kind of wrote him off because of the talent he had around him at Michigan. But now you're seeing that like some of it isn't there anymore, and that a lot more has been put on his plate, and he's been able to make plays. Like you said, he's got to be more of a quarterback. He's got to be more of a pocket passer. But that's the case with 99. We just talked about Caleb Williams, who, if the draft was today, is the number one pick, and that dude has pocket issues. Like he does. I mean, there is no perfect quarterback. There are a lot of guys. Drake May is one of the only quarterbacks in this class who like
Knows how
we're
to operate in the
seeing
pocket.
who like
Him and
operates the
Shador,
pocket at a
really.
high level. Yeah, like there aren't that many guys who are doing it. So it's something that can be worked on. And in the age where all of these teams are drafting quarterbacks because of their tools, he could go a lot higher than I think a lot of people are, giving him credit for.
All right. I think that was pretty comprehensive. There are a lot more guys. There's the Bo Nixes, the Sam Hartmans, the Spencer Rattlers of the world, the
Tyler
Michael
Van Dyke,
Pratts, the Michael Pratts of the
Luke's
world.
QB1, Tyler Van Dyke.
All right, man. He's actually back to being not a tax
Not
attorney
bad. Not
already.
bad. Yeah.
But obviously there's a lot more guys that we could have talked about. Michael Pratt being one of them who we are both very high on, but there's only so much time allotted in free Zoom calls. So we will see you next week. Hopefully we have a fun weekend of college football. The real college football season starts now. The good games start now. So we hope you enjoyed listening, watching, however you consume this information into your ears. We thank you for it, and have a good night. We ball.